Buckingham Palace called an emergency meeting behind closed doors. No cameras, no transcript, no advance notice. Hours later, one phrase was trending across every royal outlet in Britain: Prince William's coronation planning. So, what was actually said inside that room? And why has the palace gone completely silent about it since? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what's being reported, what's confirmed, and what it really means for the next King of England. Here's where we start. Buckingham Palace has not confirmed that an immediate coronation is being arranged for Prince William. What has been reported is more specific than most headlines suggest. According to sources close to the royal household, the meeting focused on expanding William's formal responsibilities, including a greater role in state ceremonies, more solo engagements representing the crown overseas, and early-stage logistics normally reserved for a future head of state. None of that has been officially verified, but the fact that it's being discussed at all tells you something. King Charles, meanwhile, continues carrying out his constitutional duties while receiving ongoing medical treatment, with parts of his schedule adjusted as needed. That much is public record. What happens inside a private palace meeting is a different matter entirely. And that gap between what's known and what's rumored is exactly why this story has taken off. Some outlets have gone further, suggesting the discussions touched on how future state ceremonies might be structured if William were required to take on a greater share of representative duties in the coming years. Again, this is reported speculation, not an official announcement. The palace has neither confirmed nor denied it, and no date, ceremony, or formal title change has been publicly attached to any of it. Treat it as a signal worth watching, not a fact worth repeating as certain. Now, here's something most people miss about how the monarchy actually operates. This institution has lasted over 1,000 years by planning decades ahead, not by scrambling when a crisis hits. Every coronation, every state funeral, every ceremonial handover you've ever watched on television was mapped out years in advance, often before the public had any idea it was happening. So the real question isn't whether this kind of planning exists. It always does. The question is why this particular meeting at this particular moment is the one making headlines. Timing is the answer. Over the past year, William has taken on a visibly heavier workload, standing in for his father at home and abroad. Royal commentators have picked up on it, and most of them are circling the same unspoken question. Is this the ordinary evolution of an heir's duties, or is the public watching the earliest chapter of the next reign unfold in real time? That's the tension driving this entire story. Let's separate fact from rumor for a moment. Confirmed. Senior palace officials meet regularly to coordinate state responsibilities. That's routine, and it rarely makes the news. Confirmed. William's public schedule has expanded noticeably. Unconfirmed. The specific claim that this meeting addressed coronation logistics. Multiple outlets have reported it, citing unnamed sources inside the household, but Buckingham Palace itself has issued no statement, no denial, and no confirmation. That silence is doing a lot of the work here. When an institution goes quiet, the public doesn't stop asking questions. It starts filling in the blanks itself. An adjusted royal schedule, a more visible heir, a meeting nobody will discuss. On their own, none of these prove anything. Stacked together, they start to look like evidence of something bigger. But a pattern that feels convincing isn't the same as a pattern that's been proven, and that distinction matters more than almost anything else in this story. Because here's what almost nobody points out. Planning for a future event is not the same as scheduling one. Long before any state ceremony reaches the public eye, teams inside the household are already coordinating security, protocol, and legal frameworks, regardless of whether that event is a year away or 30. Royal insiders call this readiness. Its entire purpose is removing uncertainty, not signaling an imminent transition. So even if reports about expanded ceremonial planning are accurate, that alone doesn't tell you when, or even whether a coronation date has been set. Still, William's growing visibility is hard to ignore. Every additional overseas trip, every solo appearance, every moment he stands in for his father sends a signal to a watching public. And the way he's chosen to present that signal is deliberate. Rather than positioning himself as someone stepping toward the throne, William has consistently framed his appearances around one message: support, not succession. That balance matters, because in a constitutional monarchy, there is only ever one reigning sovereign, and appearing to overshadow that, even by accident, would be a serious misstep. Princess Catherine's return to public life reinforces the same message. After stepping back to focus on her health, her carefully chosen appearances alongside William have drawn close attention from audiences worldwide. Each one has leaned towards service over spectacle, and that choice isn't accidental, it's strategic. Together, the Prince and Princess of Wales are projecting one thing: steadiness. Even as the conversation around them keeps returning to a single question: what happens next? But maybe that's not even the right question to ask. Maybe this was never really about William, or Catherine, or even King Charles individually. Maybe it's about whether an institution built for continuity can keep functioning the way it always has. Under public scrutiny, it's never quite faced before. Unlike an elected government, a monarchy's strength doesn't come from dramatic moments. It comes from being dependable when everything else feels unstable. That's why succession planning and measured messaging have always mattered, even when nobody's watching. It's only when a meeting like this one leaks into public view that the machinery behind the scenes suddenly becomes visible. This also explains, on a psychological level, why the story spread as fast as it did. When official answers are scarce, people naturally look for patterns that make uncertainty feel manageable. A closed-door meeting, a revised schedule, a more prominent heir. Lined up together, they start to feel like a story writing itself. But a compelling narrative and a verified fact aren't the same thing, and recognizing that difference is the only way to actually understand this story instead of just reacting to it. So, where does that leave things right now? The clearest picture available is this: King Charles remains the reigning monarch, actively fulfilling his duties while following medical guidance. Reports about expanded coronation-related planning for William remain unconfirmed by the palace, even as his public role visibly grows. Both things are true at once, and neither cancels out the other. That's not new for this institution. Every modern monarch has been shaped by years of groundwork long before any formal transition took place. That preparation rarely makes headlines, because its entire purpose is to prevent uncertainty, not create it. The public usually only catches the visible fragments: an engagement, a ceremony, a closed-door meeting like this one, while the rest of the machinery keeps turning out of view. That's really what this story comes down to. Not one meeting and not one leaked report. It's the larger question of how a 1,000-year-old institution prepares for its future without shaking confidence in its present. Based on everything reported so far, the answer looks familiar. Measured planning over sudden announcements, internal coordination over public statements, and a gradual shift of responsibility long before it's ever formally required. For William, this moment carries weight beyond visibility alone. It's a test of the qualities a future sovereign is expected to show: consistency, restraint, and discipline under public attention. Every overseas trip, every solo engagement, every appearance made on his father's behalf adds another piece to a process that has defined this institution for generations. In the end, this story was never really about what was said behind one set of palace doors. It's about what's already visible in plain sight: an institution adjusting to a changing moment while trying to protect the one asset it depends on above all else: public trust. So here's what I want to know from you. Do you think William's expanding role is simply the natural progression of an heir's duties? Or does it feel like the opening chapter of something much bigger? Drop your take in the comments below, because I read every one of them. And if this kind of grounded, evidence-based look into royal history is exactly what you come here for, hit subscribe, because next week, we're covering a palace story even bigger than this one.